Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. I am just Mike. You are watching and you are listening to episode number 75 of the Rock Out Wild Show, where it is not just a show, it is a way of life. Now, if you are new to this video, and if you're new to this channel as well, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below this very video. You can also like or dislike however you want to rate this video as well. And also share episode 75 of the Rock Out Wild Show on all of your social media platforms that you use, from your Facebook, whether it's your YouTube, your Instagram, your X, your Snapchat, your TikTok, what have you. Share episode 75, the Canada Day special of the Rock Out Wild Show, on every social media site that you use. And also tell everyone what the Rock Out Wild Show is all about, from your family to your friends to your coworkers to your acquaintances. Let everyone know about the Rock Out Wild Show. As you see from the title of this very episode, this is going to be a Canada Day special, seeing as that it is July 1st, 2026. On the docket, we are going to have some Canadian themed type topics for this very episode. So, one of the topics I'm going to go over is the history of Canada. That would be the kickoff. Then we're going to go into some wrestling. We're going to look at Sportster's ranking of the top 10 greatest Canadian wrestlers of all time. We are also going to look at an article from youdiscovermusic.com on the best Canadian musicians, 25 icons from the Great White North. That will also be a topic for you all. Also, Collider's 15 greatest Canadian movies ranked as well. That will also be a topic in itself. And the main event of episode 75 of the Rock Out Wild Show. This is something I normally kick off with, a movie review reaction. But we are going to save it for the main event. I will be reacting to an old movie review of mine, a movie that was filmed right here in Newfoundland, Canada, called Cast No Shadow. That will be the main event of this Canada Day special. And like I said, we're going to kick things off a little bit different for this Canada Day special. We're going to look at a website from Canada.ca on the history of Canada Day. So what I'm going to do is present, share screen, and we're going to take a look at this article right here. So, the history of Canada Day. So, Canada Day is a day to reflect on what it means to be a Canadian, to share what makes us proud, and to celebrate in our own way. This pride is reflected in as many ways as there are Canadians. Canada Day highlights the richness of our land, our discovery, our culture, our contributions, but above all, our people. Since 1868, July 1st is an opportunity for Canadians from all communities to come together. Then we get into the creation of Canada Day. So, on July 1st, 1867, the British North America Act, today known as the Constitution Act 1867, creates Canada. On June 20th, 1868, Governor General Lord Monarch signs proclamation that requests all Her Majesty's subjects across Canada to celebrate July 1st. On 1879, a federal law makes July 1st a statutory holiday as the anniversary of Confederation, which is later called Dominion Day. On October the 27th, 1982, July 1st, Dominion Day officially becomes Canada Day. Then we get into the celebrations start. On July 1st, 1917, the 50th anniversary of Confederation. The Parliament buildings under construction are dedicated to the fathers of Confederation and to the courage of Canadians who fought in Europe during the First World War. On July 1st, 1927, the 60th anniversary of Confederation. The Peace Tower, Carleton, is inaugurated. The Governor General the time Viscount Wellington lays the cornerstone of the Confederation building on Wellington Street. From 1958 to 1968, the government organizes celebrations for Canada's national holiday every year. The Secretary of State of Canada is responsible for coordinating these activities. A typical format includes a flag ceremony in the afternoon on the lawns of Parliament Hill and a sunset ceremony in the evenings, followed by a concert of military music and fireworks. On July 1st, 1967, the 100th anniversary of Confederation, Parliament Hill is the backdrop for a high-profile ceremony, which includes the participation of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. From 1968 to 1979, with the exception of 1976, a large multicultural celebration is presented on Parliament Hill. This concert is broadcast on television across the country. The main celebrations, called Festival Canada, are held in Canada's capital region throughout July. These celebrations include many cultural, artistic, and sports activities, and involve the participation of various municipalities and volunteer associations. From 1980 to 1983, a new format is developed. In addition to the festivities on Parliament Hill, the National Committee, the group tasked by the federal government to plan the festivities for Canada's national holiday, starts to encourage and financially support local celebrations across Canada. Startup funding is provided to support popular activities and performances organized by volunteer groups in hundreds of communities. Interested organizations can make a request under the Celebrate Canada program. In 1981, fireworks light up the sky in 15 major Canadian cities, a tradition that continues today. I will indeed be watching the fireworks on Canada Day as well. In 1984, the National Capital Commission, NCC, is given the mandate to organize Canada Day festivities in the capital. In 2010, festivities on Parliament Hill received the royal treatment when Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II and His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh joined the festivities to celebrate Canada's 143rd anniversary. In 2011, their Royal Highness Prince William and Catherine, the Duke and the Duchess of Cambridge, participate in Canada Day festivities on Parliament Hill on the occasion of Canada's 144th anniversary. In 2014, Canadian Heritage organizes the 147th Canada Day celebrations as we approach Canada's 150th anniversary in 2017. The government has given the department the mandate to organize Canada Day festivities in the capital. In 2017, a wide range of activities are held across the country to mark the 150th anniversary of Confederation. Attending Canada Day for the first time, the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall join in the festivities on Parliament Hill to mark this milestone anniversary with Canadians. In 2020 and 2021, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the celebrations are presented in virtual format to comply with public health guidelines. In 2022, Canada Day celebrations are back in person in Canada's capital region. Although Parliament Hill has been the official site of our national holiday for more than 50 years, the main stages are moved to new locations given the renovations to Parliament. The festivities are held mainly at LeBreton Flats Park and in the heart of Ottawa, Gatineau. And in 2024, after many decades, Canada Day gets a new logo. Inspired by the national flag of Canada and its history, the maple leaf appears at its most iconic in a magnificent display of warm colors. Within the logo, the veins create images, notably those of fresh buds emerging with renewed life. The paths that they travel are the points where they connect, shape our vision for a greater future. So that was the, I guess you could call it on this day, so to speak, in years past to celebrate Canada Day. So that was your icebreaker for episode 75 of the Rock Out Wild Show. Right now, we are going to go over another topic for you all. Well, I am actually. I don't know where this we came from. There's only one host here, and that's your host, just Mike. So, without further ado, let's get on to our next topic of this episode. So, what I'm going to do is present, share screen, and let's go over the best Canadian musicians, singers, and artists. That will be the next topic for episode 75. This was published on July 1st, 2025, so it'll be a year ago. And this is the best Canadian musicians, 25 icons from the Great Wide North to celebrate Canada Day. You Discover Music assembled a list of the country's greatest musicians that cross all genres, eras, and provinces. And here we see a picture of Alex Lifeson on the left, Neil Peart right in the middle, and Geddy Lee on the right. They are known as Rush. And God rest you, Neil Peart. And also John Rutsey, who was the original drummer, in case you didn't know. So, for a relatively small country, roughly 36 million, Canada continues to punch above its weight when it comes to musical contribution. The sheer volume of notable acts that were left off the list is impressive enough. From bonafide legends Neil Young and Joni Mitchell to 80s hit machines Bryan Adams and Corey Hart to the 2000s chart toppers The Weeknd and Grimes, Canada boasts some serious homegrown talents that they're nice enough to share with the rest of the world. To celebrate Canada Day, You Discover Music have assembled a list of the country's greatest musicians that cross all genres, eras, and provinces, excluding the many talented French-Canadian artists and Glenn Gould, Lenny Brew, and Oscar Peterson. They're above lists. So, number 25 on this list is Shawn Mendes. So, since you're like Justin Bieber, Mendes paralyzed his internet stardom to full-fledged pop stardom. Over the course of 3 albums, Mendes set himself apart with his passionate vocals and acoustic guitar mastery, imbuing the sometimes staid model of pop rock with tension and longing, along with a string of hit singles like Treat You Better, Mercy, There's Nothing Like Holding Me Back, and most recently, If I Can't Have You. Mendes is also very much an album artist, showing his full songwriting abilities on deep cuts like Hold On can attest. So Shawn Mendes comes in at number 25 on this list. Number 24 is Drake. Not a fan of Drake, but I understand why he's on here. And it says, while rappers like Dream Warriors and Chaos were underground upstarts in the 90s to early 2000s, no Canadian artist was able to achieve mainstream popularity until former child actor turned rapper Drake put Canada on the hip-hop map. I don't know if I agree with that. There are guys that came before, but it is what it is. Becoming one of the biggest selling and influential rap stars in the world, from co-founding Canadian record label OVO, October's very own, sent to coining the city's unofficial nickname, The Six. Drake is Canada's biggest hype man. Not only did he use the CN Tower for his Views album art, he even has a tattoo of the iconic Toronto landmark on his arm and helps to introduce fellow Canadian The Weeknd to the rest of the world. Number 23 is Rufus Wainwright. I don't know who this is. Someone could probably tell me who this is. And since you're technically one half Canadian, Rufus Wainwright is the progeny of Kate McGargle, one half of the singing folk sensation the McGargle Sisters, and 60s folk sensation London Wainwright III. With his sister Martha, the Montreal native got his start singing on the Montreal club circuit before establishing himself as one of the preeminent singer-songwriters of his generation, with the voice of an opera cum laude singer. Ever since relocating to the US, he'll always be Montreal's son. Number 22 on this list is Broken Social Scene. I am not familiar with who that is, but I do know who number 21 is. And number 21 is Diana Krall. Diana Krall is the best Canadian jazz musician. Maybe, maybe not. But she certainly ranks up there in the jazz vocalist category as one of the most acclaimed and successful jazz performers today. Diana Krall has made a career of honoring the greats like Cole Porter, Peggy Lee, Nat King Cole, while ever expanding the definition of the American songbook. With her dark, soulful voice in the ambitious arrangements, Krall was hailed as a throwback to the golden era of jazz vocalists. But over the course of the 14 studio albums, the British Columbia native threw some curveballs as well, pushing the boundaries and pop jazz and creating new songbook standards. Diana Krall, I think, is really, really, really good, really, really talented. Then we get into number 20 here. That is Daniel Lanos, held by Rolling Stone as the most important record producer to emerge in the 80s. Lanos is one of the best Canadian producers, composers, and musicians, and has worked with the likes of Brian Eno, Peter Gabriel, Sledgehammer, Bob Dylan, Amy Rose Harris, and is the man behind U2's Joshua Tree and The Unforgettable Fire. In his famous studio in Hamilton, Ontario, he produced records for Canadian artists such as Martha and the Muffins and Ian and Sylvia. As a solo artist, the multi-instrumental singer released a string of albums that featured his wonderfully atmospheric textures and poetic songwriting. Number 19 on this list is Gordon Lightfoot. Canada has a long tradition of singer-songwriters that's partially in thanks to his own folk song laureate, Gordon Lightfoot. Coming out of the Toronto 60s folk music scene, Lightfoot, native country world, become his lifelong muse. Penning such classics as Canadian Railroad Trilogy and Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, and yet universally enough to appeal worldwide, turning him into Canada's most successfully contemporary folk artist. A beloved cultural icon, he's been the beneficiary of countless awards and honoring, including the Companion of the Order of Canada, Canada's highest civilian honor. So that is really, really good, I must say. Number 18, I'm not familiar with Joel Plansky, but it says here the multiple Juno Award-winning singer-songwriter is the clear here appearance to the Tragically Hip, both in terms of writing energetic folk rock with lyrical homage to Canada and for his relative obscurity outside of the country. Nonetheless, he is one of the best Canadian musicians, hailing from Halifax, Nova Scotia. Plaskett has a prolific output that spans more than 2 decades and includes countless studio releases, both with the 90s hard rock band The Rush Hermit, his solo recordings, and with his band, the Joel Plaskett Emergency. Number 17 is a band that I am familiar with, Cowboy Junkies, and it says when Cowboy Junkies first arrived on the Toronto music scene in the mid-80s, people struggled to classify their genre-fluid blend of country, blues, folk, indie rock, but following their 1986 breakthrough, the Trinity Session, they helped to define the emerging Americana genre. They became college radio staples thanks to the cover of Lou Reed's Sweet Jane, but are beloved as an enduring cult act for the movie introspective songwriting. Number 16 on this list is Feast. That's a band I'm not really familiar with, but I am familiar with these next two. Number 15, Arcade Fire. This is the band that formed in 2001 when Win Butler, Josh Diu, and Regine Chastain met while at a university in Montreal. I'm sorry if I mispronounced those names as well. Arcade Fire went from being local favorites to the toast of the music press in the space of only 3 albums. That's impressive. Blending Baroque pop with harder indie rock sounds, this group of some of the best Canadian musicians gained international fandom with new classic hits No Cars Go and Wake Up, and now headline festivals around the world. Number 14, Blue Rodeo. It says here, often compared to fellow Canadians, the band, which I hope I see somewhere on this list. Blue Rodeo are a Canadian country rock institution. Since forming in 1984, the Toronto based quintet were a huge hit in Canada in the 90s, thanks to their dynamic mix of American pop, country, and blues, and two-part harmonies reminiscent of the Everly Brothers. With a solid roots rock sound and two-part harmonies, their 1990 album Casino did achieve some stateside success due to their in part of their first hit single, Till I Am Myself Again. Since then, they become one of Canada's renowned legacy acts that tour worldwide. Speaking of legacy acts, coming in at number 13 on this list, the Guess Who. And it says here, sometimes it takes an American woman to stay away from me to break into the U.S. charts. And that's why the powerhouse group of Canadian musicians, the Guess Who, did in 1970, being the first Canadian group to have a U.S. chart topper since 1954. And it's tremendous success right there. Powered by the soulful vocals of Burton Cummings and Randy Botman's driving guitar and sardonic songwriter, the Winnipeg-based band found international success throughout the 60s and the 70s, until disbanding when Bachman left the group and went on to form the hugely successful Bachman-Turner Overdrive with their hit single, You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. And that's why the Guess Who are at number 13, I should say lucky number 13 on this list. Coming in at number 12, Al Tuck. I'm not familiar with who Al Tuck is, so I'll keep going here. Number 11, K.D. Lang. A self-described torch and twang singer, K.D. Lang was never going to be a traditional country star. With her androgynous looks in tear in the throat vocals that can make a man cry, the Canadian singer-songwriter from Edmonton, Alberta, was propelled to fame in the 90s with her breakout album, Inagui. Since starting out in a Patsy Cline tribute band, Lang was a true country kid with hits like Crying and I'm Down to My Last Cigarette, before finding crossover success with the pop single Constant Craving. I'm looking at you, the Rolling Stones. She has also collaborated with likes of Roy Orbison, Tony Bennett, and even Klein's former producer Owen Bradley on the 1989's Shadowland. Number 10 on this list is Ron Sexsmith. If you have a last name Sexsmith, you know you're going to go places. Since you're with wildly gifted songwriter who flies under the mainstream radar and is beloved by critics and musicians alike. Noticing the pattern here, well, Ron Sexsmith is one of the best Canadian singer-songwriters, it says. With his distinctive and charming voice and wonderful melodic sense, he gained many famous admirers, including Elvis Costello and Elton John. There you go. Sexsmith arrived in Toronto by way of St. Catharines, Ontario, and was praised for his songwriting since his self-titled major label debut in 1995. After crafting 14 albums worth of earnest guitar pop, Sexsmith developed a cult following despite many of his songs becoming mainstream hits for others, such as Feast's Secret Heart and Michael Bublé's Whatever It Takes. Number 9 on this list is Justin Bieber, and we really don't need to say anything other than he deserves to be on this list, I think. Is he too high? I don't know. Is he too low? I don't know. But tell me, what do you think? Is Justin Bieber at a good spot on this list or not? Let me know in the comments right by this episode. We're not going to go over what Justin Bieber, this little thing on Justin Bieber, because everyone knows who it is. So let's continue on. Number 8, Again, I don't need to go over this, but I will. Bryan Adams. Everyone knows the crooner outside of Canada for 80s hard rocking hits like Summer of '69 and Cuts Like a Knife, or his heartfelt love ballads that dominated the '90s. Everything I do it for you, which still holds the record for longest unbroken run at number one on the UK single chart. But this Canadian icon and a prolific songwriter is so much more than the soundtrack to school dances. With an unmistakable raspy voice and gift for writing incredibly catchy songs, few things are more cherished by Canadians than maple syrup, hockey, and Bryan Adams Run to You. Number 7, the Tragically Hip. I agree they should be on this list. I mean, with a name like the Tragically Hip, the bluesy Canadian rock outfits sealed their fate by being cool to Canadian audiences, but never cracking the US and world markets. They've been called Canada's REM, I can see the comparison, only by Americans, we suspect, for the clever lyricism and the roots rock meets alt country sound. With a staggering amount of hit songs and albums under their belt, they are part of Canada's cultural identity, so much so that when beloved frontman Gord Downie performed his last concert with the band in 2016, 11.7 million Canadians tuned in to watch. That's a lot. One of the best Canadian bands ever. Number 6 on this list, Bruce Cockburn. That's one of the most prolific recording artists to come out of Canada in the 60s wave of singer-songwriters. Bruce Cockburn was not just the voice of a generation, but has spent 4 decades making himself heard. From politics to human rights and spirituality, the legendary singer-songwriter from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, has a catalog that's as diverse as it is brilliant. With countless Juno Awards to his name and a Canadian Music Hall of Famer, Cockburn continues to be an inspiration to Canadian musicians and beyond. Number 5 on this list, all I gotta say is they're still up on Cripple Creek. Number 5, The Band. Sometimes it takes a bunch of the best Canadian musicians to write some of the most quintessential American songs in music history. While the band is 80% Canadian with one Arkansas in drummer Levon Helm, they remain one of the most influential acts in the 60s rock, and their concert film, The Last Waltz, stands as one of the greatest moments in rock history. With their 1968 debut, Music from Big Big Pink, the Canadian Troubadours, Robbie Robertson, Rick Danko, Garth Hudson, and Richard Mangle gave definition to the genre of Americana, with the blues meets country-infused R&B. Even the most casual music fans know the chorus to The Wait, and their song, The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down, is one of the best rock songs to ever put to tape about the Civil War. Number 4 on this list, this band needs no introduction, and you saw them on the very top of this very website, Rush. Take a crew of obsessed Canadians, apply an English prog sensibility, and you have one of the most successful rock acts to break out of Canada, selling over a million records sold worldwide. Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson grew up near Toronto and came up in the local club circuit before going on to form the illustrious prog rock trio known as Rush. While the band's sound would evolve over the years since their 1974 debut, their expert musicianship, complexity of their compositions, and vivid lyricism would remain unparalleled. Clearly a group of the best Canadian musicians to ever do it, and I 100% agree with that. So what is the top 3 of the best Canadian artists, bands, singers, what have you? What is that top 3? Well, at number 3, it's Joni Mitchell, one of the best musicians ever, let alone Canadian, as one of the 20th century's most celebrated and influential artists. Joni Mitchell is the very face of folk music, and yet equality at ease in the worlds of rock, pop, jazz, and blues. a fixture of the 60s folk scene in Greenwich Village and Laurel Canyon. Mitchell first got her start during university in Calgary before busking in the streets of Toronto. With Woodstock, she created the anthem for an entire generation, even though it was Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young that made it famous. Truly one of the most gifted songwriters in music, the enduring popularity of her albums, Blue, Hera, and Chord and Spark, defied the trends and convention. And her music has been stamped from everyone from Janet Jackson to Prince. I mean, when your music gets been stamped by Prince, even let alone Prince, you know you're doing something right. Number 2, Leonard Cohen. Authoring a song that will launch almost 100 covers, Hallelujah is just a small sliver of Leonard Cohen's immense contribution to music over the past 5 decades. The accomplished poet and novelist was the toast of the Montreal literary scene before he turned to music to become the foremost songwriter of his era. His meditations on love, faith, despair, and politics could be conveyed in the events in even the simplest of terms, I should say. Songs like Suzanne and Bird on the Wire and Sisters of Mercy would cement his reputation as in-demand folk songwriter, spawning hits for countless other artists, but no one could replace Cohen's deep Renaissance voice. And the number 1 singer on this list of the greatest Canadian singers of all time is Neil Young. Lists are incredibly subjective, but it's impossible to deny the enormous impact that Neil Young has made in the musical world for the past 50 years. From his time with Buffalo Springfield to Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young to his solo work with Crazy Horse, the singer-songwriter from Northern Ontario, left his homeland long ago and yet never became an American citizen. With one of the rock's most productive and enduring solo careers, Young has created his own songbook of standards and continues to be a political force for action. So that was the list that you Discover Music uploaded a year ago on the best Canadian musicians, 25 icons from the Great White North. Now we are going to go into another topic for this Canada Day celebration. We are going to look at some wrestling. Let's go over some wrestling, shall we? So what I'm going to do is present, share screen, and I'm going to go over an article from the Sportster. Okay, I found it here. And it's the top 10, ranking the 10 greatest Canadian wrestlers of all time from the Sportster. This article actually came out a few years ago. And only now I'm getting around to this, seeing as this is a Canadian-themed month. So let's go over this. So who are the 10 greatest Canadian wrestlers according to the Sportster from some years ago? Well, as we see here is a picture of the man who has passed away way too soon in his career, and that's the legendary Owen Hart. There he is with 2 Slammy Awards. I'm proud of them. So this is Canada's finest, ranking the 10 greatest Canadian wrestlers of all time, according to the Sportster.com. It says here, wrestlers come in all shapes and sizes from all over the world. However, over the years, there has been one place in particular that has produced more than its share of greats. That is Canada. The list of Canadian legends in the sport of professional wrestling is a long one. The WWE is loaded with Hall of Famers from the Great White North, and there are plenty more names that are sure to be added as time goes on. Of course, this leads to a difficult question. Who are the greatest wrestlers the nation has ever produced? Well, to answer this question, the Sportster has ranked the 10 greatest Canadians to ever set foot in a wrestling ring. So who do they have here? Number 10 is the man that used to be glorious, who I call the real product Peterborough, number 10 on this list, Bobby Roode. It says here, in truth, the number 10 spot is a bit tricky. There are several stars like Lance Storm, Jinder Mahal, Pat Patterson, who have a strong case for the slot. However, in the end, Peterborough's, Ontario's Bobby Roode gets the nod. Even before signing with WWE, Roode has been a stellar performer in TNA for many years. In fact, he is a two-time TNA World Heavyweight Champion and also won the tag titles in 6 times. The Glorious One went on to become one of the NXT's top stars and one of my favorite NXT champions as well, capturing the promotion's version of the world title in the process. Roode has since gone on to win the tag titles and the United States Championship as a member of WWE's main roster. And right now, I do believe he is producing backstage as well, so he has done all right for himself, I think. Number 9 is Natalya. And I don't mind Natalya being on this list. I think she deserves a spot on here. Since here, while it's true, Natalya has never been the top female star in the WWE, at least in terms of popularity. She has been a steady performer for well over a decade now. Her consistency combined with her title reigns is good enough for the daughter of the legendary Jim the Anvil Neidhart to earn the number 9 spot. From a historical standpoint, the Calgary, Alberta product became the first woman to hold both the Divas Championship as well as the SmackDown Women's Championship. That being said, it's her ability to have solid matches with less experienced performers over the years that has really helped her shine. She may be slightly underappreciated now, but history will be kind to a gritty worker like Natalya. Number 8 on this list, Kevin Owens. And I think Kevin Owens is a decent spot on this list, I think. What do you think? Does Kevin Owens belong on this list? Well, what does it say here? Well, it says that a longtime favorite amongst internet fans, Kevin Owens has now established himself as a top performer in the WWE. An excellent entertainer overall, St. John Sir Richelieu has earned the right to be mentioned alongside the top Canadian sport entertainers. Depending on how the rest of this WWE run goes, he may make his way further down the list in the years to come, or up for that matter. You never know. Owens' biggest strength is his mic work. He's one of the best talkers in the WWE and is a natural heel. His in-ring work is also generally pretty solid. Since making his main roster debut in 2015, he has won several titles, including the WWE Universal Championship. So Kevin Owens is at number 8. Number 7, Christian. To me, I think Christian is a very underrated and unappreciated wrestler in the WWE. He's definitely one of those underrated kind of guys, I think. In a sense here, Kitchener, Ontario's Christian definitely earned his stripes in World Wrestling Entertainment. Like so many of the greats, he has success as both a tag team wrestler and a single star on his way to earning the number 7 on the list. It says here, Christian held just about every title known to man throughout his illustrious career. Despite being a former world champ, he is arguably best remembered as one half of the tag team Edge and Christian. His finest moment in the ring was the fabulous WrestleMania TLC match involving the Dudleys and the Hardys. His main event even push came late in his career when WWE was bit talented starved, which is why he isn't lower on the list, though he is still an all-time great Canadian. And from what I hear, Christian is doing pretty well in AEW. Number 6, Owen Hart. Since here, due to his tragic death, WWE has kind of walked on eggshells when it comes to approaching the topic of Owen Hart. Absolutely, I agree. As a result, many younger wrestling fans may not realize just how good he actually was. To me, I always thought Owen was better than Brett, but that's just me. And in truth, he was one of the top in-ring performers of his generation, which is why he made the list. Owen Hart's WrestleMania match with his brother Bret Hart, there he is easily among the 5 best in the pay-per-view's long-standing history. The King of Hearts held every major title in the WWE except the World Championship. Unfortunately, his career was shortened before he got the main event push that most of other performers on our list received. Number 5, I'm so glad she's on here, Trish Stratus. I agree. I think Trish belongs in the top 10 as well. The word trailblazer is often overused in WWE. However, Trish is one of the few stars who truly managed to blaze a trail for her predecessors. The Toronto native's rise to superstardom showed WWE officials that there was a market for women's wrestling. If not for Stratus' impressive run, many of the female standouts that are featured so prominently today may not even be in the WWE. And you know what? They may not have been. While her ring work may not seem overly impressive compared to today's female stars, it was better than the majority of her contemporaries. The former Diva of the Decade has an impressive 7 title runs and is a member of the WWE Hall of Fame, as she should. Number 4, you think you know him? He is the rated R superstar, Edge. Me personally, I probably have him slightly higher, but I'm glad he is high up on the list. And it says here, Orangeville, Ontario, Canada's own Edge is a very versatile entertainer. He is one of the only handful of wrestlers who was good as a babyface as he was a heel. He can make fans laugh or hate him seemingly at will. If titles were the only criteria on our list, Edge would be in the number 1 slot. Over the course of a WWE career that began back in 1996, he managed to capture 31 titles. He was also one half of the great tag team in Edge and Christian. In terms of popularity, he never reached the heights of stars like Hogan and The Rock, but he remains an all-time great nonetheless. I agree with that assessment. Now we only have top 3 left. The top 3. Who are the top 3 best Canadian wrestlers according to the Sportster.com? Well, number 3, even though he was born in Manhattan, even though he was born in New York, he grew up in Canada. Number 3 is Y2J Chris Jericho. Technically, he was born in Manhattan, New York, absolutely. However, he grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, and identifies as Canadian. So he qualifies for the list. Absolutely, I agree. He is one of the few stars that resonate with the internet wrestling community and casual audiences as well, due to his ability on the mic combined with excellent ring work. After making a name for himself in WCW, Jericho took things to the next in the WWE by winning the undisputed WWE Championship. He also held the Intercontinental title at an impressive 9 times, more than any other wrestler. The only real knock on Jericho is that he was never really been the top guy, and I agree with that as well. He was never the top guy, but he was a top guy. There's always been Steve Austin, The Rock, John Cena around in the featured spot, but Chris Jericho is a guy that keeps reinventing himself over and over and over. That's why he's so versatile, and that's why he's so good. That's why he's in the top 3 on this list. Now we have 2 left. So what do we have? Well, coming in at the runner position at number 2, I absolutely love that he's on here. And he's only here to do 2 things: kick ass and chew bubble gum, and he's all out of bubble gum. The man, the myth, the legend himself at number 2 is the Hot Rod, Rowdy Piper. No, he's really not Scottish. He was born in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. Rowdy Piper is perhaps the greatest heel in professional wrestling history. I 100% agree with that. When it came to being a man that folks love to hate, nobody did it better than the Hot Rod. His segment, known as Piper's Pit, is still the best wrestling feature of its kind, despite several attempts by WWE and other promotions to duplicate it or surpass it. And then it says here, Piper is often mentioned among the great wrestlers to never win the world title. That's because he didn't need it, and Piper became the company's top heel on his mic skills alone. As Hulk Hogan's arch nemesis, Piper helped take Hulkamania to the next level, which in turn helped make professional wrestling as popular as it is today. But there's only one true great Canadian legend that deserves to be at the top of this list. I 100% agree with this, even though I think that his brother is better. I will continue saying that with my last dying breath. But according to the Sportster, the greatest Canadian wrestler of all time is Bret the Hitman Hart. Holding down the number one spot, they have none other than Bret the Hitman Hart. He was widely regarded as one of the best in-ring technicians of his generation, or any other one for that matter. Hart always had amazing matches, and fans never had to suspend their disbelief to enjoy them. Hart is a 5-time WWE World Heavyweight Champion and is one of the very few wrestlers who has been inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame twice, once as a member of the Hart Foundation. His match with his brother Owen and Shawn Michaels are two of the best in WrestleMania history. He was also WWE's top start throughout much of the 90s. So Bret Hart is number one, according to the Sportster, of the best Canadian wrestlers of all time. So that was that list. So what are we going to do? So we got two more things on this Canada Day special. I think it's only fitting that we end with movies. The second last topic I'm going to go over is an article from Collider from a few years ago. So what I'm going to do is present your screen again. They went over a list called the 15 greatest Canadian movies ranked. So Canadian cinema is one of the most fascinating national filmographies of any country in the world. Through hundreds of Hollywood movies are shot in Canada every year. The country has a cinematic voice of its own that's massively underrated and worthy of more attention from international movie fans. Starting in the mid-1910s, the country has produced many outstanding feature films that prove the talent of filmmakers native to the Great White North. So what does Collider have on this list of their great Canadian movies? Well, it says here, although some might not know, Canada has produced many of the best filmmakers working today. Some of today's most talented directors, from David Cronenberg to Denis Villeneuve, began their careers working in their homeland, honing their skills before making the jump to Hollywood. From seminal horror thrillers like Videodrome to jaw-dropping mystery dramas like Indecels, Canada has produced some outstanding movies that shouldn't be overlooked. So, what do we have here? Number 15 is a movie called Going Down the Road from 1970. This is a movie I have never heard of. I'll go over this here. While the U.S. was going through the revolutionary New Hollywood movement down south, Canada was going through a bit of a moment itself. It was during this decade that the Canadian film industry truly started to establish itself as a strong, viable, emerging national cinema, all thanks to masterpieces of the stature of Going Down the Road. It follows two friends who leave Nova Scotia for the nightlife and culture of Toronto, but soon end up feeling homesick when they realize Toronto isn't what they thought it was. Despite its small budget, the film is typically praised as one of the most groundbreaking and influential Canadian movies ever made, and for good reason. Its realistic approach to an all too relatable premise makes its narrative hit close to home, and Donald Sheeb's powerful direction keeps it all emotionally enthralling from beginning to end. Then we have Universal Language, a movie that came out a couple of years ago from 2024. It says here, over the course of the decade, Canadian cinema has given ample signs of being on a slow but steady revival process. Perfect proof of that is the indie darling Universal Language, an obscure comedy set in an alternative reality in which Persian is the dominant language in Canada. It's a typical about a seemingly unconnected stories that find a mysterious point of intersection that packs a punch. Universal language is delightfully surreal and eccentric without ever feeling pretentious, nor ever alienating audiences who aren't particularly used to weird films. So I'm thinking this is a weird film to begin with. It's simply one of the best comedy movies of the 2010s. It says here a witty love letter to Winnipeg that's full of wild ideas. It's always known how to best execute. Number 13 is a movie called Blackberry from 2023. Then we got Dead Ringers at number 12 from 1988. These are some movies I never even heard of. I'm just going to breeze through some of these. Number 11 is Lawrence Anyways from 2012. Number 10, Mommy from 2014. What we'll do is we'll go over the top 5 and we'll get to the main event here. So number 9 on this list is a movie called Jesus of Montreal from 1989. Number 8, Stories We Tell from 2012. Number 10, The Sweet Hereafter from 1997. And number 6, Mon Oncle Anatoni from 1979. These are movies I've never even heard of. None of these movies that I just listed off, I never heard of. They're all Canadian made, but they're movies that just dropped off the radar and no one's ever heard of them. So that's why I'm giving all these movies a light to shine on this Canadian special. We're going to get into detail of the top 5 here. So let's get this going. Number 5 is a movie called The Fast Runner. I'm not going to pronounce that first word there at all, but this movie came out in 2001. This is a film that put Inuit cinema on the map. The Fast Runner is a retelling of an Inuit legend about an evil spirit causing strife in a community and one warrior's enduring battle against its menace. This movie is unlike any other film that Canadian cinema, or any country's cinema for that matter, has to offer, not just because of its insightful look at Arctic culture, but because its story of revenge and redemption is so distinctly executed. The Fast Runner was a surprise hit at the time of its release, with critics commenting on its powerful message and jaw-dropping cinematography. In 2015, the Toronto International Film Festival named it the very best Canadian film of all time. That's a big move right there. With the general momentum-filled structure of the classic myth, but the unique perspective of its Inuit director and crew, this movie is gripping, beautiful, and absolutely unforgettable. Never seen it, don't plan to see it, but we'll continue on here. Number 4 on this list, Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. And it says here, Nirvana, the band, was born in Nirvana, the band, the show, a hilarious web series from 2007 that eventually became the 2017 mockumentary sitcom of the same name. 7 years after the show's conclusion, the titular duo composed of Matt Johnson and Jay McCarroll came back for Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, which is nothing short of one of the most ingenious comedy movies ever made. The film, making brilliant use of the mockumentary genre and sort of a man on the street format, is the kind of punk rock comedy that will consistently have you going, how the hell did you pull that off? Armed with just their hysterical sense of humor and RV and flawless understanding of fair use law, Johnson and McCarroll made one of the best sci-fi comedies ever. A masterpiece that is a love letter to Toronto, Back to the Future, and the passion for making films regardless of any limitations. Number 3 on this list is Incendies Incendies. I think that's how you pronounce it. Well, this movie came out in 2010. I'm not really familiar with it, but I know the director here. Though this movie is by far one of Denis Villeneuve's best films, it says, it's definitely not one of the most rewatchable. This is because the drama about twins journeying to the Middle East to discover their family history at their mother's dying request is relentlessly brutal and profoundly disturbing. Even then, anyone who considers themselves a fan of Villeneuve ought to watch it at least once. So in a way, this is kind of like Schindler's List. You watch it once and it's not rewatchable, but you just watched a great movie kind of thing. It's like a movie that's like down in the dumps, depressing, that kind of thing. So I totally get it. It says here, anchored by a powerhouse performance by Nabana Asbal and a truly harrowing story. Incendies is a powerful story of identity, family secrets, and the absolutely devastating effects of war. Its melodrama gives it power, its haunting tone makes it impossible to look away from the screen, and its jaw-dropping final twist is one of the most shocking in movie history. If anyone were to call this Villeneuve's magnum opus, no one could blame them. Number 2, Videodrome from 1983. It says here, one of the best experimental horror movies of all time. Videodrome is David Cronenberg's masterpiece. The film tells the story about a Toronto TV station programmer who specializes in adult entertainment. After he comes across a mysterious broadcast, he goes in search of its producers, finding that his quest may be significantly more dangerous than he's accounted for. Like most of its director's best works, Videodrome is profoundly disturbing, visually staggering, and so creative with its gore that it may make Cronenberg initiate squirm. Frankly, it may even fans who have seen the movie multiple times do the same. The story's exploration of how technology alters humanity and how depravity distorts reality is riveting, to say the least. In fact, it's prophetic to the point of being eerie, especially considering the current media landscape where violence is commodified and exploited. So it sounds like not my kind of movie, but one that you watch it once and again you don't watch it again kind of thing. David Cronenberg, I think, is a director that's very hit and miss. You either like his stuff or you don't like his stuff. His directing sometimes it's questionable, and he also can pull out the good one every now and then. But at number 1 is My Winnipeg from 2007. So this was Collider's number 1 of the best Canadian movies ranked. It says here, Guy Maddin is one of the Canadian cinema's most unique voices, with a highly experimental use of surrealism and unconventional cinema elements that bear a resemblance to the work of David Lynch. He has made multiple of the country's most underrated art house films. One such masterwork is My Winnipeg, a part documentary, part fiction meta gem, where Maddin weaves fact, fantasy, and memory together in his portrait of his hometown of Winnipeg, Manitoba. Head-scratchingly surrealistic and exquisitely complex, the surprisingly humorous documentary is a one-of-a-kind film that must be seen to believe. Oh, I believe it all right. My Winnipeg is what happens when a brilliant documentarian who has well over a decade of experience in surrealistic filmmaking is given free rein to craft a deeply intimate piece. Charming, unpredictable, and truly submersive, My Winnipeg is nothing short of genius, it says, not to mention unapologetically Canadian. And that's the theme of this show. That is Canadian. And that was Collider's ranking of the 15 best Canadian movies ranked. And I do believe it is about that time for the main event for episode 75 of the Rock On Wild Show. I am going to react to an old movie review of mine, a movie called Cast No Shadow that was filmed right here in Newfoundland, right here where I am at recording this episode right now. So, what I'm going to do first is open up the webcam and say hi to everyone watching this all around the world. As you see, I'm wearing red for Canada Day. It's red, it's white, it's the Canadian flag. That's what I'm representing here. And let's get to it, shall we? So, I am going to present, share screen, and let's go to the review. Now, before I click play, I'm going to guess how many points I gave this review. Right now it's uploading, so we'll just go ahead and watch this. The benefits of recording one take. All right, so my guess is 67 points out of 100. While this is uploading, we're going to wait for it. And that's right. Yeah. It, it is a weird reason. That's right. That's right too. Yeah. Right. Hmm. Right. That's right. Absolutely. Mm. I was really off. Yeah, so I was about 12 points off. Yeah. The browser can't access your screen. Try capturing a different screen to see if it continues. Okay, well, let's see if I can I don't know if that actually went through. Cast no shadow. Here we go.
Well, that was really different. Didn't love it, but I liked it.
Okay, here we go.
It's weird. Very weird. Hey, what is up, Ben? How's it going? All movie fans in the movieverse. Welcome to the Mike McRock Movie Review Show. Right now, I'm going to review Cast No Shadow. Now, this is a movie that was only very limited released, and it was shot, filmed, and located right here in Newfoundland, Canada, and it's only out in a couple of theaters, like in Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, Toronto, and there was also a film festival in South Korea for this movie. So this is only a short, limited release type of movie that probably won't get a lot of buzz about. But I could see why a lot of people wanted to see this movie because it was filmed in Newfoundland. I mean, this is one of those movies where you're going to get a lot of people from Newfoundland to see this movie, as well as the other places that I mentioned, So this movie has a bit of a following, but to the fans, movie fans out there in places like the United States and elsewhere in the world, go find this movie online when it comes available because I was impressed by this movie. And going into this movie, I kept an open mind. I expected it to be creepy and different, and I got exactly that and more. This was a well directed and well executed type of movie, and like I said, it's very different. I'm not sure what genre I would throw this movie in because there's so many genres that this movie has. I mean, this movie has the thriller elements, the drama elements. It hints of horror movie, a little bit of a fantasy as well. It does different genres in this movie, and what I like is that it doesn't have an identity crisis. It knows what it is. It knows it's very different, and it knows that it uses different genres. And what I also like about this movie is that it adds that element of mystery. Sometimes in movies, like horror movies, like thrillers, they tend to show too much, but with this one, you could just use your imagination and just let your imagination run wild. And basically, what happens in this movie is that Jude and his friend go out on an adventure to find a troll and to give Troll a piece of gold, like a peace offering or something like that. For some odd god reason, I really don't know why, but it is what it is. So what happens is that his friend gets like trapped and he gets stuck and he falls and Jude tries to pull him up and all this other stuff, and he doesn't want to, but he kind of does in good heart. And I like how this movie played on the character of Jude. He really showed emotional depth in his character. He could show vulnerability through his character. You just can't help but root for him for some reason, even though he is a juvenile who does steal. And he also has his abusive father as well, played by Joel Thomas Hines. In this movie, I thought he was really good as well as Angus, and I like the relationship between him and his son, mainly because they are son and father in real life, and it shows on screen. So I really like their back and forth and the scenes that they are in. There's also a character by the name of Alfreda, played by Mary Colin Cleesham. Sorry if I'm butchering your name right now, but I like her as well. I like the dynamic of the relationship with her and Jude because she sees the good in him, despite that he steals from her as well. So I really like how every character plays a different part, and it's not confusing, because another problem I have with movies is that they have too many characters, but with this one, there's only a very few characters in this movie, and I like that because it's really easy to follow. And I like the pacing of this movie. It's only an hour and 25 minutes long, so this movie didn't drag at all. But with all that being said, I do have issues with this movie, and basically these issues are subplots that get unresolved. For instance, the story where the kid Jude runs into these bullies and he hits one of the bullies with brass knucks, and they're going to do an investigation under that with the murder weapon in question, but that kind of gets fallen through the wayside, and there's a relationship with Jude and this girl that he likes, even though it was kind of awkward in a sense. It even that doesn't get resolved, so that kind of left me hanging, as well as the relationship with Jude and the character, his friend, who got his foot broke or his ankle broke or something from the fall from the cliff. And I was hoping that he would play more of an important character as the story progressed, but even that kind of got fall to the wayside. It was more about the relationship of Jude and Angus, the father and son relationship, and the storyline progression and the character development of Jude. But despite the minor nitpicks I had with the subplots at least what made up for it was the really good acting in this movie. So with all that being said, I'm going to say that Cast No Shadow delivered 79 points out of 100.
There it is.
And if you saw this
Throw
movie,
points up.
what did you think about it? Feel free to leave those comments in the comment section below. And you can also hit that subscribe button as well to get McRocked.
And that's what I meant to do earlier, is to actually hit record on and share screen instead of a lost connection. So you get a bit of a few minutes of silence on this Canada Day special. Hey, what the heck? It is what it is when you do it one take. So that, ladies and gentlemen, was episode 75, the Canada Day special of the Rock Out Wild Show. I'm going to leave you all with a quote, and it goes something like this. Embrace the wisdom that comes with age, for it is a gift that enriches your life in countless ways. Every wrinkle, every gray hair tells a story of resilience and experience. Cherish the journey that has brought you to where you are today, for it has molded you into the strong and resilient individual you are. Remember, you are like a fine wine. You only get better with time. Trust in your inner strength to navigate any challenges that come your way, and have confidence in the lessons you have learned along the way. Your unique journey is a tapestry of beautiful moments, so take a moment to appreciate the richness and depth it brings to your life. I am your host, Just Mike, and this has been the Canada Day special, episode 75 of the Rock Out Wild Show. And on a final note to all of you watching and listening to this all around the world, get plenty of rest and always do your best.